an expose of physical regenesis on the threefold plane of bodily, chemical, and spiritual operation by Dr. George W. Carey, author of Textbooks on the Chemistry of Life, published in 1917 in Los Angeles, California. Introduction. What Jehovah, Eve, David, and John say. And Jehovah God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree in the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat it, for the day thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. And the woman said unto the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. Genesis 1:16. And he shall be like a tree planted by the streams of water, that bringeth forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf does not wither. And whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. David in Psalm 1. And on this side of the river and on that was the tree of life, bearing 12 manner of fruits, yielding its fruit every month. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. John the Revelator, chapter 22. Part 1. Just going to scooch this over a little. There we go. Wonders and possibilities of the human body. The human race has been asleep and has dreamed that property and money are the true wealth of a nation, sacrificing men, women, and children to the chimerical idea that danced in visionary splendor through their brains. The result of this is to be seen in the uneasiness that prevails everywhere. But humanity is waking up, slowly but surely, and beginning to realize that it itself is the most precious thing on earth. The old established statement that the individuals that make up the race are imperfect is no more true than that a pile of lumber is imperfect, that it is to be afterward reformed or built into a house, as it is the carpenter's business to take the lumber which is perfect as material and build a house. So it is the legitimate work of spiritual man to take the perfect material everywhere present and build the perfect law of chemistry and mathematics. The perfected, harmonious human being, and with this material employ the same law to build up society collectively. It is a well-known physiological fact that the blood is the basic material of which the human body is continually builded. As is the blood, so is the body. As is the body, so is the brain. As is the brain, so is the quality of thought. As a man is builded, so thinks he, according to the views of students of modern alchemy, the Bible, both the Old and New Testaments. Let me scooch this over here. Are symbolic writings based primarily upon this very process of body building. The word alchemy really means fleshology. It is derived from chem, an ancient Egyptian word meaning flesh, the word Egypt also means flesh or anatomy. Alchemy, however, in its broader scope, means the science of solar rays. Gold may be traced to the sun's rays. The word gold means solar essence. The transmutation of gold does not mean the process of making gold, but does mean the process of changing gold solar rays into all manner of materialized forms, vegetable, mineral, etc. The ancient alchemist studied the process of nature in her operations, from the volatile to the fixed, the fluid to the solid, the essence to the substance, or the abstract to the concrete, all of which may be summed up in the changing of the spirit into matter. In reality, the alchemist did not try to do anything. He simply tried to search out nature's processes in order that he might comprehend her marvelous operations. To be sure, language was used that to us seems symbolical and often contradictory, but it was not so intended, nor so at all in reality. We speak in symbols. If a man is in delirium caused by alcohol in his brain cells, we say he has snakes in his boots. Of course, no one supposes that the words are to be taken literally. Yet if our civilization should be wiped out and our literature translated after 4,000 or 5,000 years, those who read our history might be puzzled to know what was meant by snakes in his boots. Again, it has been believed by most people that the words transmutation of base metals into gold, used by alchemists, referred to making gold. But a careful study of the Hebrew cosmogony and the Kabbalah will reveal the fact that the alchemist always referred to solar rays when he used the word gold. Base metals simply means matter or basic, the dissolving or the disintegration of matter. The combustion of wood or coal seemed as wonderful to these philosophers as the growth of wood or the formation of coal or stone, so that transmutation of base metals into gold simply meant the process of changing the fixed into the volatile, or the dematerialization of matter either by heat or by chemical process. It is believed by modern students of alchemy that the books of the Old and New Testaments are a collection of alchemical and astrological writings dealing entirely with the wonderful operation of aerial elements spirit in the human body so fearfully and wonderfully made. The same authority is given for the statements, "Know ye not that your bodies are the temple of the living God? And come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give ye rest." According to the method of the reading, the numerical value of the letters K by the Kabbalah, M and E figure B when united. Our B is from the Hebrew Beth, meaning a house or temple, the temple of the soul, the body, thus coming into the realization that the body is really the Father's house, temple of God. The soul secures peace and contentment or rest. The human body is composed of perfect principles, gases, minerals, molecules, or atoms, but these builders of flesh and bone are not always properly adjusted. The planks or bricks used in building houses may be endlessly diversified in arrangement and yet be perfect material. Solomon's temple is an allegory of man's temple. The human organism. This house is built, always being built, without sound or saw or hammer. Let's take a peek. The real ego manifests in a house, Beth, church, or temple. Soul of a man's temple, the solar plexus, is the great central sun or dynamo on which the subconscious mind, another name for God, operates and causes the concept of the individual consciousness. The brain of man is the Son of God, the medium, between the general dynamo and the cosmic ocean of space. Thus, digestion or combustion of food, circulation of blood, inbreathing the breath of life, aerial elements, is carried on by the cooperation of the Holy Trinity. God, the solar plexus, the sun of the brain, and the holy whole spirit or air. No wonder that the seers and alchemists of old declared that your bodies are the temple of which the living God and the kingdom of heaven is within you. But man, blinded by selfishness, searches here and there, scours the heavens with his telescope, digs deep into the earth, and dives into the ocean's depths in a vain search for the elixir of life that may be found between the soles of his feet and the crown of his head. Really, our human body is a miracle of mechanism. No work of man can compare with it in accuracy of its process and its simplicity of its laws. At maturity, the human skeleton contains about 165 bones, so delicately and perfectly adjusted that science has despaired of ever imitating it. The muscles are about 500 in number. The length of the alimentary canal, 32 feet. Amount of blood in the average adult, 30 pounds, or 1/5 the weight of the body. The heart is 6 inches in length and 4 inches in diameter and beats 70 times per minute, 4,200 times an hour, 100,800 per day, 36,720,000 per year. At each beat, 2.5 ounces of blood are thrown out of it, 175 ounces per minute, 656 pounds per hour, or about 8 tons per day. All the blood in the body passes through the heart every 3 minutes. And during 70 years, it lifts 270 million tons of blood. The lungs contain about a gallon of air. At their usual degree of inflation, we breathe on the average at 1,200 breaths per hour, inhale 600 gallons of air, or 2,400 gallons daily. By the way, this is a story, I'm reading it. I don't know if it's true. You're going to have to fact check yourself. The aggregate surface of the air cells of the lung exceed 20,000 square inches, an area nearly equal to that of a room 12 feet square. The average weight of the brain of an adult is 3 pounds 8 ounces. The average female brain, 2 pounds 4 ounces. The convolutions of a woman's brain cells and tissue are finer and more delicate in fiber and mechanism, which evidently accounts for the intuition of women. It would appear that the difference in the convolutions and the fineness of the tissue of the brain matter is responsible for the degrees of consciousness called reason and intuition. The nerves are all connected with the brain indirectly or by the spinal marrow, but nerves receive their sustenance from the blood and their motive power from the solar plexus dynamo. The nerves, together with the branches and the minute ramifications probably exceed 10 million in numbers. The skin is composed of 3 layers and varies from 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in thickness. The average area of the skin is estimated to be about 2,000 square inches, the atmospheric pressure being about 14 pounds to the square inch. A person of medium size is subject to a pressure of 40,000 pounds. Each square inch of skin contains 3,500 sweat tubes or perspiration pores, each of which may be likened to a little drain tile, 1/4 of an inch in length, making an aggregate length of the entire surface of the body 201,166 feet, or a tube for draining the body nearly 40 miles in length. Our body takes in an average of 5.5 pounds of food and drink each day, which amounts to 1 ton of solid and liquid nourishment annually. So that in 70 years, a man eats and drinks 1,000 times his own weight. There is not known in all the realms of architecture or mechanisms one little device which is not found in the human organism. The pulley, the lever, the inclined plane, the hinge, the universal joint, tubes and trapdoors, the scissors, grindstone, whip, arch, girders, filters, valves, bellows, pump, camera, and alien harp, and irrigation plant, telegraph, telephone systems, all these and 100 other devices which man thinks he has invented, but which have only been telegraphed to the brain from the solar plexus, cosmic center, and crudely copied or manifested on the objective canvas. No arch ever made by man is as perfect as the arch formed by the upper ends of the 2 legs and the pelvis to support the weight of the trunk. No palace or cathedral ever built has been provided with such a perfect system of arches and girders. No waterway on earth is so complete, so commodious, or so populous as the wonderful river of life. The stream of blood, the violin, the trumpet, the harp, the grand organ, and all the other musical instruments are mere counterfeits of the human voice. Man has tried in vain to duplicate the hinges of the knee, elbow, fingers, toes, although they are part of his own body. Another marvel of the human body is the self-regulation process by which nature keeps temperature in health at 98 degrees, whether in India with a temperature at 130 degrees or in the Arctic regions where the records show 120 degrees below the freezing point. The temperature of the body remains the same, practically steady at 98 degrees, despite the extreme to which it is subjected. It was said that all roads lead to Rome. Modern science has discovered that all roads lead to real knowledge, led to the human body. The human body is the epitome of the universe, and when man turns the mighty searchings of reason and investigation within, he has so long used without the new heaven and earth will appear. While it is true that the flesh is made by a precipitation of blood, it is not true that the blood is made from the food. The inorganic or cell salts contained in the food are set free by the process of combustion or digestion and carried out into the circulation through the delicate absorbent tubes of the mucous membrane of the stomach and intestines. Air or spirit breathed into the lungs enters the arteries, air carriers, and chemically unites with the mineral base, and by a wonderful transformation creates flesh, bone, hair, nails, and all the fluids of the body. On the rock, Peter or Petra meaning stone, of the mineral salts is the human structure built, and the grave, stomach, or hell shall not prevail against it. The minerals in the body do not disintegrate or rot in the grave. The fats, albumin, fibrin, that compose of the organic part of the food are burned up in the process of digestion and transposed into energy or force to run the human battery. Blood is made from the air, thus all nations that dwell on earth are of one blood. For all breathe one air. The best food is the food that burns up the quickest and easiest, that is, with the least friction in the human furnace. Excuse me. The sexual functions of the man and the woman, the holy operation of creative energy manifested in male and female, the formation of life germs in ovum and sex fluids, the divine procedure of the Word made flesh, and the mysteries of conception and birth are the despair of science. Know ye not that your bodies are the temple of the living God? For God breathed into man the breath of life. In the words of Epictetus, unhappy man, thou bearest a God with thee, and knowest it not. Walt Whitman sings, I loaf and invite my soul, I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a sphere of summer grass. Clear and sweet is my soul, and clear and sweet is all that is not my soul. Welcome every organ and attribute of me, and of any man hearty and clean, not an inch, not a particle of an inch is vile, and none shall be less familiar than the rest. Divine am I, inside and out, and I make holy whatever I touch or am touched from. I say no man has ever been half devout enough. None has ever yet adored or worshipped half enough. None has begun to think how divine he himself is, and how certain the future is. The vagus nerve, so named because of its wandering, vagrant branches, is the greatest marvel of the human organism. Grief depresses the circulation through the vagus. A condition of malnutrition follows, and tuberculosis, often of the hasty type, follows. The roots of the vagus nerve are in the medulla oblongata and the base of the small brain or cerebellum, and explains why death follows the severing of the medulla. It controls the heart action, and if a drug such as actinide be administered, even in small doses, its effect upon this nerve is shown in slowing the action of the heart and decreasing the blood pressure. In larger doses, it paralyzes the ends of the vagus in the heart, so that the pulse becomes suddenly very rapid and at the same time irregular. Branches of the vagus nerve reach the heart, lungs, stomach, liver, kidneys. Worry brings on kidney disease, but it is the vagus nerve, and especially that branch running to the kidneys, which under undue excitement or worry or strain brings about the paralysis of the kidneys in the performance of their functions. When we say that a man's heart sinks within him for fear or apprehension, it is shown by the effect of this nerve upon the heart action. If the heart beats high with hopes, or he sighs from relief, it is the vagus nerve that has conducted the mental state of the heart and accelerated its action or caused that spasmodic action of the lungs, which we call a sigh. The nerves of the human body constitute the tree of life, with its leaves of healing. The flowing waters of the rivers of life are the veins and arteries through which sweep the red magnetic currents of love, of spirit made visible. Acid and alkalis acting, proceeding and acting again, operating, transmuting, fomenting in throes and spasms of pain, uniting, reacting, atoning like souls, passing under the rod. Some people call it chemistry, others call it God. Behold the divine telegraph system, the million nerve wires running through the wondrous temple, the temple not made with hands, the temple made without sound of saw or hammer. View the central sun of the human system, the solar plexus, vibrating life abundantly. Around this dynamo of God you may see the beasts that worship before the throne day and night, saying, Holy, holy art thou, Lord God Almighty. The beasts are the 12 plexuses of nerve centers, telegraph stations like unto the 12 zodiacal signs. that join hands in a fraternal circle across the gulf of space. Aviation, liquefied air, deep breathing for physical development, and the healing of diverse disease rule the day. In every brain there are dormant cells, waiting for the coming of the bridegroom, the vibration of the air age, the Christ, that will resurrect them. Everywhere we have evidence of the awakening of the dormant brain cells. Much, if not all, of the spiritual phenomenon, multiple personality, mental telepathy, and kindred manifestations are explainable upon the hypothesis of the possibility of awakening and bringing into use of dormant brain cells. The eye is hardly less wonderful, being a perfect photographer's camera. The retina is the dry plate on which are focused all objects by means of the crystalline lens. The cavity behind this lens is the shutter. The eyelid is the drop shuttle. The draping of the optical darkroom is the only black membrane in the entire body. This miniature camera is self-focusing, self-loading, and self-developing, and takes millions of pictures every day in colors and enlarged to life size. Charts have been prepared, marvelous charts, which go to show that the eye has 729 distinct expressions, conveying us many distinct shades of meaning. The power of color perception is overwhelming. To perceive red, the retina of the eye must receive it 395,000 vibrations in a second. For violet, it must respond to 790 million. In our waking moments, our eyes are bombarded every minute by at least 600 million vibrations. The ear is a colossal mystery, and the phenomenon of sound is a secret only recorded in the Holy of Holies of the infinite mind. And what is mind? We know absolutely nothing of it. Some believe that the mind is the product of chemical operation of the matter, that is, the atoms or materials that compose the human body. These persons contend that all electrons are particles of pure intelligence and know what to do. Others hold to the theory that the universal mind, whatever it may be, forms a body from some material, they know not what, and then plays upon it and operates through it. Visions of beauty and splendor, forms of a long-lost race, sounds and faces and voices, from the fourth dimension of space. And on through the universe boundless our thoughts go lightning-shod. Some call it imagination, and others call it God. We wonder and adore in the presence of the pulsing orb, the heart. Tons of the water of life made red by chemistry of love sweep through this central throne every day and flow on to enrich the Edenic garden until its waste places shall bloom and blossom as the rose. Take my hand and go with me to the hum of the soul, that wonderful brain. Can you count the whirling electric vibrating cells? No, not until you can count the sand grain on the ocean's shore. These rainbow-hued cells are the keys that the fingers of the soul strikes to play its part in the symphony of the spheres. At last we have seen the travail of the soul and are satisfied. No more temples of the Magi now, but instead the temple of the ego, the glorious human Beth. At least we have found the true church of God, the human body. In this body or church, spirit operates like some wizard chemist or electrician. No more searching through India's jungles or scaling the Himalayan heights in search of a master, a Mahatma, or ancient priests dwelling in some mysterious cave where occult rites and ceremonies are supposed to reveal the wisdom of the past. But instead, you have found the kingdom of the real within, the temple that needs no outer sun by day nor moon, nor stars by night to lighten it, and then the enraptured soul becomes conscious that the stone has been rolled away from the door of the material concept where it has slept, and now hears the voice of the Father within, saying, "Let there be light," and feels the freedom that comes with knowing that being is one. And now, man, the ego also realizes the meaning of the day of judgment. It realizes that judgment means understanding, hence the ability to judge. Man then judges correctly, for he sees the wisdom of infinite life in all men, in all things, all events, and all environments. Thus does the new birth take place, and the kingdom of harmony reigns now. Man must realize, however, that he is the creator or builder of his own body, and that he is responsible for every moment of its building and every hour of its care. He alone can select and put together the materials provided by the universe for its construction. Man has been able to scale the heavens, to measure the distances between the stars and the planetary bodies, and to analyze the component parts of the suns and worlds. Yet he cannot eat without making himself ill. He cannot foretell eclipses and tides for years in advance, but he can foretell eclipses and tides for years in advance, but cannot look far enough ahead in his own affairs to say when he may be brought down with la grippe, or to calculate accurately the end of any body ill that may afflict him. When he finds out what he really is and how much he has always had to do in the making of himself what he is, he will be ready to grasp some idea of the wonderful possibilities of every human soul and body, and will know how completely and entirely is every man his own Savior, just so long as he denies his own powers and looks outside of himself for salvation from present or future ills. He is indeed a lost creature. If the race is to be redeemed, it must come as a result of the thought followed by action. If the race is to think differently than at present, it must have new bodies with new brains. Excuse me. Man must be born again. Modern physiologists know that our bodies are completely made over every year by throwing off worn-out cells and the formation of new ones. Guys, I know this is not true. You don't have a new body every year. But your cells do turn over. So, by the way, keep in mind this was written in 1917, and it's not it's a book based on plausible analogies, but keep that in mind, please. Okay, nature will take care of the making over process, but we are responsible for the plan of reconstruction. Man must learn to run the machinery of his body with the same mathematical accuracy as he now displays in control of an engine or automobile before he can lay claim to his divine heritage and proclaim himself master of his own. So, the law of life is not a separate agent working independently of mankind and separate from individual life. Man himself is a phase of the great law in operation. When he once fully awakens to the universal cooperation of the attributes and thoughts through which the great dynamus operates or proceeds. He, the ego, one of the expressions of infinity, will be enabled to free himself from seeming environments of matter, and thus realizing his power will assert his dominion over all he has been an agent in creating. And he has indeed assisted in creating, manifesting all that is. Being a thought, an outbreathing of universal spirit, he is co-eternal with it. In material concept, we do not begin to realize the extent of our wisdom when we awaken to spirit consciousness, knowledge that we are egos that have bodies or temples and not bodies that have souls or spirits. We see the object or reason of all symbols or manifestation and begin to realize our own power over all created things. And in this Aquarian age, great changes in nature's laws will be speedily brought to pass, and great changes in the affairs of humanity will result. The laws of vibration will be mastered, and through their operation, material manifestations will be shaped and molded to man's will. It is only a matter of time when all the necessities of life will be produced directly from the elements of the air. It is well known by chemists that all manner of fruits, grains, vegetables are produced directly from the elements in air and not from soil. The earth, of course, serves as a negative pole and furnishes the mineral salts of lime, magnesium, iron, potassium, sodium, and silica, which act as carriers of water, oil, fiber, and sugar, and thus build up the plant. But oil, sugar, albumin are formed by precipitation or condensation or principles in air, not from soil. This is a fact abundantly proved. Mr. Berthelot, a scientist of France, Tesla, the Austrian wizard, and our own Edison have long held that food can be produced by a synthetic process from its elements artificially. Some 6 or 7 extracts, as well as coloring material, are now being manufactured in this manner. Matter is made almost exclusively by this process now. Sugar's been recently made in the lab from glycerin, which Professor Berthelot made direct from synthetic alcohol. Commerce has now taken up the question, and an invention has been patented by which sugar is to be made upon a commercial scale from 2 gases at something like 1 cent per pound. M. Berthelot declares he has not the slightest doubt that sugar will eventually be manufactured on a large scale, synthetically, and that the culture of sugarcane and beetroot will be abandoned because they've ceased to pay. Boy, that was more than 120 years ago. No, wait, it was 1917. No, it was 103 years ago that he said this, and we're still using sugar. And he says we're in the Aquarian age, and I heard we weren't in the Aquarian age yet. So I don't know. Okay, let me continue. I don't mean to ruin the story, but the chemical advantages promised by M. Berthelot to future generations are marvelous. He cites the case of alzarin, a compound whose synthetic manufacture by chemists has destroyed a great agricultural industry. It is the essential commercial principle of the madder root, which was once used in dyeing. The chemists now have succeeded in making pure indigo direct from its elements, and it will soon be a commercial product. Then the indigo fields, like the madder fields, will be abandoned. Industrial laboratories having usurped their place. Biochemists long ago advanced the theory that animal tissue is formed from the air inhaled and not from food. The food, of course, serves its purpose. It acts as the negative pole, as does the earth to plant and vegetable life, and also furnishes the inorganic salts, the workers that carry on chemistry of life, setting free magnetism, heat, and electric forces by disintegration and fermentation of the organic portions of the food. But air, in passing through various avenues and complex structure of the human organism, changes, condenses, solidifies, until it's finally deposited as flesh and bone. From this established scientific truth, it appears that by constructing a set of tubes, pumps, etc., resembling the circulatory system as well as the lung cells of the human mechanism, which is a chemical laboratory where the chemistry of the spirit is ever at work, changing the one essence of spirit substance to blood, flesh, and bone, air may be changed into albuminous pabulum, which may be again changed into a special kind of food required by adding the proper flavor, which may also be produced direct from the air. There does not seem to be any reason why this substance, the basis of all food or vegetable growth, cannot by proper processes be made into material for clothing. Wool, cotton, flax, silks, etc., are all produced from the universal elements through the slow, laborious, and costly process of animal or vegetable growth. Why not produce them direct? Those who believe in a time of peace on earth, a millennial reign, certainly do not think that our present mode of producing food will continue during that age. Slaughter of animals and fruit, grain, or vegetable raising leave small time for men and women to enjoy a condition foretold by all the seers and prophets. But under the new way of producing food and clothing, the millennium is possible. And thus will the problem of subsistence be solved. No more monopoly of nature's bounties. An exchange of service will be the coin of the world, instead of certain metals difficult to obtain. A realization of this vision or theory that will, for a while, be called visionary by most people will mean Eden restored. The earth will be allowed to return to its natural state. We will cease to eat animals, birds, and fishes. Many people have wondered why, during the last few years, fruit pests have multiplied so alarmingly, and why crows are almost universally diseased, and so much attention given to the meat, milk, and butter products by boards of health, etc. There is surely a reason. The one life supreme intelligence or divine wisdom that holds the words of space in their appointed orbits surely knows all about the affairs of earth. When a new dispensation is about to be ushered in, old things begin to pass away. All labor preparing food and clothing is now carried on, will cease, and the people in the governmental or collective capacity will manufacture and distribute all manner of food and clothing free. Machinery for the production of everything necessary for man's material wants will be simple and easily manipulated. 1/20 of the able-bodied population working 1 or 2 hours a day and shifting every week or day for that matter with others, will produce an abundant supply. Neither droughts nor floods nor winter snow can affect the supply. It can be made in Klondike or the tropics. Garments may be worn for a few days and then burned, and laundry work cease. Cooking will be reduced to a minimum. No preparing vegetables, fruit, or cracking nuts. No making butter or preserving meats. Men will not have to devote their lives to the endless grind of food production, nor women to cooking. Dishwashing, sewing, and laundry work. Garments of beautiful design and the finest textures will be made by machines invented for the purpose, ready for wear. A dream? A dream, you say? I cannot admit that in the fact of the indisputable evidence already produced. But what if it were at present but the dream it may appear to the one who hears of its methods of operation for the first time? Do dreams ever come true? Yea, verily. All concrete facts are materialized dreams. An Egyptian king dreamed, and the pyramids of Cheops mass and miracle his vision. The pyramids are encyclopedic of physical science and astral lore. The science of numbers, weights, measures, geometry, astronomy, astrology, and all the deeper mysteries of the human body and soul are embodied in these incomparable monuments. A dream of an ancient alchemist solidified in stone, and the awful Sphinx sat down in Egypt's sand to gaze into eternity. Columbus dreamed, and a white-sailed ship turned its prow west and west, on uncharted seas with an eternity of water ahead. He remembered his dream and answered, "Sail on," to the discouraged mate until he landed on the unknown shores of a most wonderful new world. Michelangelo dreamed 1,000 dreams, and sleeping Marble awoke and smiled. Hudson and Fulton dreamed, and steamboats run over and under the seas. We don't even use steamboats anymore. Again, this was written in 1917. The Pilgrim Fathers dreamed, and American, the marvel of the nations, banners the skies with the stars and stripes. Marcus Whitman and Lewis and Clark dreamed long and hard, and the bones of oxen and men and women and babies made a bridge over the desert sands and the mountain gorges to the shores of the sundown sea. And now the Pullman cars come safely over. Morse and Macaroni and Edison, or is it Marconi? And Edison dreamed strange wild dreams and concentrated intelligent springs from carbon crucible, and says to Earth's boundaries, "Lo, here I am." Vibration of etheric substance, causing light through regions of space, a girdle of something enfolding and binding together the race, all words without wires transmitted. Aerial wings spirit sandaled and shod. Some call it electricities, and others call it God. A mechanic dreamed and sprang upon his automobile and drove it till the axles blazed and the spaces shriveled behind him. Men of high-strung, airy brains dreamed wondrous dreams, and now the eagle's highway, an open road to men, lie parallel. A musician dreamed a sweet harmonious dream, and forth from a throat of brass and discs of carbon, directed by a million tiny fingers of steel, came the entrancing notes that had run riot through the singer's brain. So let us dream on, men and women of the day. of rest that is already dawning in the heavens. No wonder that Paul said, "Now, brethren, are we the sons of God? But it doth not yet appear what we shall be as such. The morning light of that glad day now purples the mountains of faith and hope with its rays of glory. And when man is once fully alive to his own heritage, realizing the wonders and possibilities of his own body to provide for its needs, he will assert the divine right within him to be an ego, a soul in command of his own temple and the environments of that temple, and will rejoice in the revealed truth of his own divinity that alone can make him free." Next time we read this, we will read Part 2, The Bridge of Life. Thank you for listening. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.